Okay, it's been a while, so here's a quick recap. I've set myself the task to make and perform a live set in a year, well actually now just 11 months. And not only that, I've set myself the lofty goal of performing at a festival. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I have zero experience on how to perform electronic music live. So what's the aim of this episode? Let's not walk before we can run just yet. We need to set up one track to play live before we can think about doing a whole set. We also have to work out what we want from our live set. Is just playing stems enough? Do we want to be able to freestyle on the fly? And what about transitions? Lots of questions, and at the moment, not very many answers. Okay, so I learned a lot from you guys in the comments in the last video, and the first mistake I was making is I was using the arrangement view rather than the session view. Now to rectify this, I could do one of two things. Copy the clip across back into the session view, or the second thing, bounce them down into stems. Now the benefit of keeping elements as instruments is it'll allow me to play a more dynamic set. I'll be able to freestyle with the parameters like amp, envelope and filter on the fly. And the cons? So with the number of devices I'd need for a full live set, I think my laptop would melt. So I kind of have no choice. Bouncing down to stems it is. So the process of exporting tracks to stems is actually pretty simple, but let's make it even easier for ourselves. First, we'll want to group any elements we're happy to export as one file. It's up to you. You might find that having all the synths together, then drums, etc., and exporting fewer stems works best for your live set. I've yet to work out what's best for me, so I'm exporting a fair few stems. Secondly, let's make sure they're all named correctly. Now to export, let's select each element we want to export as a stem, click File, Export, then click Selected Tracks Only. Finally, making sure we have Include, Return and Master effects enabled. And that's it. Now when you bring the stems into your new live set project, make sure Auto Warp Long Samples is off and drag the stems in. Give each stem a new lane, then enable Warp. Checking the clip's Warp BPM is correct. Here my track is 135, so I'll make sure that stays the same. Now comes the long part. Enable the loop bracket and create an 8-bar loop. Then copy the clip to the next row and move the bracket 8 bars across. You're going to want to do this until you get to the end of your track, and for all the elements. Exporting fewer stems is looking like a much better idea now, right? Finally, for our little jam session, in session view, let's map a key to play the next scene. For this, let's left click on an editable parameter, then select Edit Key Map. Then click this little play button, and then the key you want to assign to it. I ended up assigning it to the one key later for the jam. Now at this point you might realise that the track is sounding a little bit different since the last time we played it on the channel. I actually cut some of the stuff that I'd made on the Syntax to give it a more darker, edgier sound, and in doing so I've kind of shot myself in the foot really, because now I have less elements to mess with live. So we're going to go back in and recreate some of the elements that I made in Ableton in the Syntax. Okay, let's start with the kick we've got going on here. Rather than start from scratch, let's filter by kicks and scroll down till we find something which sounds similar. I'll then go back and forth, listening out to see how we can get closer to the original sample. For example, our original doesn't have as much high end, so let's take out some using the filter. I've also done this for a secondary bass to get this. And also the snare. Alright, now that's taken care of, let's demo the track a bit. Okay, a lot better than last time in terms of playability. I feel like I now have more elements that I can bring in and out in the Syntax, and also can make more of creative impact on the track rather than just transitioning from section to section. As you can see, it's great to be able to increase the delay on some of the tracks so that I can help build transitions. However, there are problems that I'm having in terms of transitioning from the sections where there are more than 3 or 4 different elements that I have to mute at the same time whilst also pressing one on the keyboard to move the next section. That becomes a bit too clunky, as you can see. The other thing that I'm missing is the transitions that I built into the track initially in Ableton. I had to get rid of those when I exported to the stems, and unfortunately I haven't found a way of building them back into the system. So if you've got any ideas, maybe an effects chain which is mapped to MIDI or anything like that, then please leave them down in the comments below. Certainly think we're closer than further from our end goal, but damn, do I have still so many questions. So maybe it's time to turn to the big guns.